Samuel Solder very generously gave me a year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and brings you today's video. Polukranos Reborn versus Durnan and background folk hero, and then we have two Thalia and the Gitrog monster opponents. No ramp in that opening hand, so we do really want to get into ramp in this deck. I will mulligan. Into... yeah, it's a 3-lander at least. We can hopefully get into a big Hydra and then redraw with the Rishkar's Expertise, refill our hand. I'll keep that one. We see a Jeweled Lotus from our opponent, which means it's a turn 1 Durnan. Soul's Attendant, of course, from Thalia, and the Gitrog monster will trigger on every creature. We get into a forest, so it's Command Tower and Hardened Scales. Soul's Attendant hits the other Thalia player. Then we see the background from our opponent, who still has 6 cards in hand, and then turns the Durnan in sideways straight down the middle, and manages to exile a Thalia, so it looks as though everything's going to be coming in tap this game. Alright, there is a Savannah. Might as well just get down a tap land here off the Arid Mesa. A Lotus Cobra for the Thalia. Now the Soul's Attendant swinging back at the humans player. Durnan going into the red zone again, this time against the Lotus Cobra, and looks like he's allowed straight through. Does not exile a creature this time. We'll be able to get down a 1-mana Thalia though. So he does cast the Thalia Heretic Cathar for 1 mana, and drew a card with the folk hero there. Then throwing out an Esper Sentinel, which surprisingly is a human. So now that Thalia's in play, our lands are coming into play tapped. We do have a basic drawing to Inspiring Call, which we're nowhere close to. So I think we're best getting down the basics so that we can play our commander and try and hold people off. Not that they're swinging in towards us here. Cabaretti Courtyard into play now. It does enter tapped, but sacrifices itself anyway, so it doesn't matter. Obviously it triggers the Lotus Cobra a few times. Now we see Exploration from our opponent, so we'll be able to make additional lands. And into a Sylvan Library. Doesn't look as though he has another land to make here. Oh, yeah he does. It is a bounce land though, Orzhov Basilica. And then with the 2 mana from the Lotus Cobra, casted an Explore, so managed to get another land into play. And there is a Swords to Plowshares, so our opponent pretty much emptying his hand, goes down to 2. Obviously has the library to refill the hand though. And Thalia does get exiled. I'm not sure... yeah, the way this is worded, they'll be able to recast it for as long as that card remains exiled. You may cast it, yeah. I'm not sure if it has to be exiled with the Durnan. It's a bit of a weird word in that. Well, we'll soon find out, see if our opponent's allowed to cast this. And the middle player is the first one to get the commander down, Thalia and the Gitrog monster. Noteworthy that we have a Vorath Stronghold over here as well, so we'll be able to pull creatures out of the bin with that. We get the Esper Sentinel in the red zone, the commander going into the left, still trying to get rid of that Lotus Cobra. Seeing a Yavimaya Cradle of Growth from our opponent comes into play tapped of course, and there is a Chrome Mox as well. Throwing a Nykthos Paragon underneath there, so the Chrome Mox will tap for a white mana. Noteworthy that they had a Grand Abolisher going to exile as well off the commander, but instead decided to go for the human enchantment, Laid to Rest. Okay, there is a Mirari's Wake for us, so get down the tap land, because everything's a tap land at the moment. We do actually have a lot of basics in this deck, but obviously not drawing into them. And I think we can go Hooded Hydra face down. Not going to be able to go for the Mirari's Wake next turn, annoyingly. Don't think we really care about going Inspiring Call next turn either, because it just draws us a single card off this if we play it face up. Yeah, I think I'll just play it face up. We'll get a couple of counters onto it, because we're just going to be way too many turns behind and the whole turning it face up thing. Because next turn we do pretty much nothing unless we draw into something. The next turn is likely Mirari's Wake. Might see a board wipe in all that time. If not, we will hopefully be able to get down the Overmauled Hydra and actually be able to get off this Rishkar's Expertise. But everything's wishful thinking at the moment. We'll hold back our commander. Our opponent starts the turn with 3 cards in hand, so not going too crazy with the Sylvan Library, and gets down his commander, once again triggering the Soul's Attendant, then throwing out an Avacyn's Pilgrim. A Sol Ring from the middle player being cast into the Esper Sentinel, and allows the Sentinel to draw. Okay, we've got an Arcane Signet in play here, and then it's Finale of Devastation, where X is 3. And grabbing an Adeline with that, which is obviously really good in multiplayer, so Soul's Attendant gonna be making even more life here. Soul's Attendant goes in at the right, and holding back the Thalia and the Gitrog because it's a really good blocker. So 3 tokens come into play, tapped and attacking, and each of those will gain a life to the Soul's Attendant. 2 of these tokens are going to survive though, because I doubt the Lotus Cobra is going to block. Blind Obedience for more tap shenanigans doesn't really do anything with this game apparently. They will be able to obviously gain life with this though, with the Extort. And there we see a Grand Abolisher, so can't do anything during our opponent's turn. And looks like they are paying the Extort cost there, so they'll gain 3 life here. And they do go up to 43. And then able to swing in against the Lotus Cobra again. I'm guessing they're not able to cast the Thalia. They will be able to cast the Imposing Sovereign though. Creatures your opponents control enter tapped. Everything's coming in tap this game. Okay, a Life's Legacy isn't the worst thing. We don't have any really big creatures yet that we can do anything with. So that comes in tapped. And we could Life's Legacy to draw some more cards. But we'd really want to be flipping this thing around first before we start sacrificing stuff. So it's just a case of holding up the Inspiring Call here and awaiting the board wipe. We can at least draw a card in response. Our opponent's at 24 and 4 cards in hand at the beginning of the turn. Can't remember how much life he was on before, so not sure about the Sylvan Library. There we see a Crucible of Worlds, so yeah, can make plenty of additional lands and does have a fetch in the bin. Esper Sentinel draws yet another card. So playing out the Courtyard will trigger the Lotus Cobra a bunch yet again. And they've got 3 land drops in a turn, I think, at the moment. And speaking of land drops, there goes another one. Azusa, Lost But Seeking, will have him able to generate even more mana. Then we see some mana fixing in the form of Prismatic Omen. So that'll be good for Cabal Coffers, which I assume they have in the deck. Alright, and there we go. The inevitable board wipe. So our opponent is down to 0 cards in hand, but has accelerated ahead nicely. Should probably be dumping life into the Sylvan Library. So we will cantrip with the Inspiring Call, because we need to do something this game. And I will pay the tax into Esper Sentinel, seeing as how no one else is going to do it. Alright, that's a good draw. Get ourselves into a Mana Crypt. Also gave the Hooded Hydra indestructible there with the card draw spell, of course. Yes, our commander goes back into the command zone. And 3 humans died there, so Laid to Rest is going to draw 3 cards. So it'd be really good if we get into an untapped land next turn, because we would be able to go Mirari's Wake and for the Uvenwald Hydra. That would set us up nicely for this thing. Thalia and the Gitrog monster into play once again. Alright, we see from the Celestia human player here an Aura Shards, so blowing up the Crucible of Worlds and the Sylvan Library with a Heron Blade Elite and an Imposing Sovereign. Okay, it's a Swiftfoot Boots for us. I think I definitely... Well, I was going to say I definitely want the Mirari's Wake, but not too sure now that we've seen this thing. Playing out the Mana Crypt, and there we see the Blind Obedience is actually relevant because it makes artifacts and creatures come into play tapped, unlike everything else. Yeah, if we hadn't just seen the Aura Shards, then I wouldn't be all that willing to play things out, but yeah, we have to, so let's just go for the Swiftfoot Boots then. Commander into play once again. Parallel lives from the other Thalia player, so definitely going for some kind of token theme, but does have some means of landfall by the looks of it. You can make tokens in these landfall decks, so ramming up makes total sense. You can also just ramp yourself ahead with it, of course. So Thalia swinging into the right. Might be that commander damage is actually relevant this game. Sacks a basic, which he should be able to get out again next turn. Eternal Witness from the humans player, paying into the Extort on the enchantment. So that's a plus counter on the Heron Blade. Be able to blow something up with the Aura Shards, and they are after the Esper Sentinel with the Eternal Witness, blowing up the Parallel Lives with Aura Shards, and playing the Esper Sentinel. And they point the Aura Shards at our Swiftfoot Boots, and just swinging a 2-1 straight down the middle. Alright, well, we got to keep our mana at least for the time being. Okay, and that's a Garrick's Uprising. We just cannot draw into any lands, so I think it just has to be the Uvenwald Hydra here. I would have been tempted there. If we had another land, I would have maybe gone for the Life's Legacy and drawn a bunch of cards. Maybe we can actually start making land drops. There's a Yavimaya in play, so I think it's fine to go for the Ancient Tomb here. Nykthos is tempting, but I don't think Nykthos is going to generate us any mana necessarily by the time our turn rolls around again. So I'll go for the Ancient Tomb. Tireless Provisioner now from the Lands Matter player. And emptying his hand plays out a bounce land, so is able to make 2 land drops this turn. Noteworthy that thanks to, the Blind Obedience, the treasure tokens will come into play tapped. So unlike gold tokens, these are fixed and you do need to tap them for the mana. Alright, so just using the Celestia Sanctuary to bounce the Orzhov bounce land, and basically they're just going to keep playing the bounce lands over and over again and bouncing each one out. It's noteworthy that with these they can bounce themselves out, so you could just play this and then bounce it out straight away. Okay, the Thalia swings in towards us this time. Well, that's the first time I've been attacked in all fairness, but I think I'd be concentrating my commander damage on my other opponents personally. They did sacrifice a forest to that as well to draw. Seen from the token player, a Chatterfang now. Alright, and a promo art of Rampaging Baloth, so yeah, that's what they wanted the parallel lives for. Got fetches ready and waiting as well, so they'll be able to get a 4/4 beast and a squirrel every time they make land drops. And they've got another land into play there as well, that is a Cabal Coffers, so yeah, they don't have all that many swamps at the moment, but someone might drop an Urborg. Thalia and Gitrog swing in to the right. So with that entering, the Heron Blade will get a plus counter on it, and Aura Shard's about to blow up our Hardened Scales, not ruining our mana very kindly. Okay, and surprisingly, swinging in with the Heron Blade Elite, 7 cards in hand, deciding not to play out any creatures. The Esper Sentinel going into the left. Okay, so we've got our Mana Crypt intact at least here. And there is a Tribute to the World Tree, which we're not going to be able to stick. So let's attempt to actually do something this game. We will tap into Orishkar's Expertise. That should draw us 6 cards on the Uvenwald Hydra. I'll let my opponent draw with the Esper Sentinel, because we'll be able to get out a free Mirari's Wake even if it does only last a turn. And that should give us about 8 mana this turn. Okay, yeah, and we have drawn into some basics. So Mirari's Wake, just put the Forest into play. We can go for the Mana Vault as well. Oh, of course, it comes into play tapped. I keep forgetting that about the artifacts. Alright, so in that case, we'll just make it the Colonian Hydra, and we can go for this Rampant Growth as well, so that we've got an extra bit of mana next turn. So yeah, this turn was worth doing, because we've got a decent amount of mana for next turn at this point. I'm kind of switching off between turns. I've only just realised I should be getting down the basic planes because we've got the Yavimaya in play over here, so we've got all the green mana we could ever want. Okay, 9/9 Uvenwald Hydra. I mean, the Thalia attacked us last turn, so do we just go over there? Actually try and start knocking people out sometime this century? Alright, the client just crashed again here. I just saw that the commander was in play and had a bunch of power and toughness. So yeah, our opponent's obviously got down a Crater Hoof Behemoth. The squirrels are still here, along with the beast tokens. But we saw from our opponent there a Settle the Wreckage, so I'm guessing everything went in. Well, it doesn't matter where it was attacking. They just had to exile all attacking creatures. Not sure why they didn't exile all these, actually. Oh, well, the tokens have Summoning Sickness, but the Crater Hoof Behemoth, of course, it would have entered tap thanks to these things, wouldn't it? So, yeah, all this stuff survives. Okay, third time's a charm. Client just crashed again, so I've just reset the entire virtual machine here, and hopefully that will clear up any memory leaks or whatever the hell's going on here. Alright, so the Aura Shards is being triggered off the Safi. Yeah, so triggering the Aura Shards gets rid of the Mirari's Wake. We didn't expect that to survive. There's a Necropotence here as well, which will no doubt get blown up by Catilda entering play. And yeah, that puts another counter on the Heron Blade and does blow up the Necropotence. They've got 7 cards in hand, down to 24 life over there. Could take a bunch of life in response. Devout Chaplain is coming into play now. That is on the stack. This opponent is starting to time out, so I don't know if there's something wrong with the client itself and each player is really struggling here, because I know I am. And yeah, okay, they do allow it down, so maybe it's lagging for them too. Getting rid of the Abzan player's Soul Ring with the Aura Shards. Alright, and now a Concordant Crossroads, so all the creatures going to have haste. They've got a bunch of mana from the Heron Blade Elite available as well. 5 cards in hand. Going through to combat here though. If they swing in over here, I will help finish this player off. And yeah, they're just turning in sideways over there. It's a shame we haven't actually done anything this game, but I'll replay Polukranos if anyone cares, and we'll just put this down to a Thalia game. Everyone's really excited for Thalia and the Gitrog monster. And these are the types of stacksy games you're going to get if you want to see that. Alright, and amazingly, haven't had our mana crypt blown up just yet. This player goes down to 3. Alright, so we draw into Rampant Rejuvenator, throw out the plains, which does come in untapped, which is amazing. See a land come in untapped. So let's cast our Polukranos, and it would be nice to turn this around into the Engine of Ruin and then go for the Life's Legacy, but I just don't think it's going to happen for us. So let's play out the Tribute to the World Tree, and we'll play the Rampant Rejuvenator into that. Just let our opponent draw cards. I think the human player is going to win this one anyway. We have really struggled with mana this game. So that comes down. Don't imagine it'll last long. The Rampant Rejuvenator, and that only comes down with 2+ counters on it, so gets 2 more on it thanks to the Tribute to the World Tree. And as tempting as it is, I don't think I can take a one-on-one with the human player actually. I mean, we've got some decent blockers to hold up against this stuff, but yeah, screw it, we'll get rid of a player. We need this game to be over and done with. So Colonian Hydra swings in. It is going to double the plus counters on all the plus counters on our creatures. And the great thing is about that card, they don't have to be attacking. Yeah, tempting to keep this player around, but with so many tokens available, I'm sure there's some crazy stuff that they could do, and they've got 7 cards in hand as well, a boatload of mana. We just need the game to be over and done with. It's turn 9 and I've done pretty much nothing. So it's 6 cards in my opponent's hand. Do they have cards in exile here? That is permanently in exile. They've got the Myrel. Oh, and there's a Rick, Steadfast Leader, so that's +2/+2 and a couple of keywords on humans. They did cantrip with that thanks to the Folk Hero background. Don't think we've seen a single board wipe this game. Oh, apart from that early 2 mana one previously. Anyway, the Aura Shards goes at the Tribute to the World Tree, as you would expect. Not sure if our opponent can Alpha Strike us here. Has gone for First Strike and Vigilance, so no lifelink. Okay, just turning everything in at us. And there we see Champion of Lamholt, so we definitely want to be seeing a board wipe. We'll block there, because that's the biggest creature. And get rid of the Rick, because that's a big creature as well, and it'll also debuff everything else. But it might be, yeah, it's looking like our opponent's got us here. All the stacks pieces bringing our creatures in tapped has really hurt us. All the stacks pieces bringing everything in tapped has really slowed us down here. And yeah, just go down to -4, so pretty close to surviving. We would have likely sacrificed, I don't know, the Ubermold Hydra most likely next turn. Maybe sacrifice this actually, because we would have got a bunch of lands into play as well. So that would have been at least 8 cards. Yeah, I just don't think we were ever going to do anything there. We want to ramp out and get all our big dumb Hydras into play. I did ask for a casual game here, and I think that was more of a high power game to be honest than casual, so we weren't ever going to do anything against those opponents. But this can be a game for the Thalia and Gitrog monster fans, so hopefully you all enjoyed it. I'm Tribalkai. Thank you for watching.